In the previous episode, Leping wants Elizabeth to rule the world again, but she doesn't agree with him. Instead of her, they will find a suitable person to rule the world, and aside from her, only Leping is qualified for this. Up next, Leping ventured into the open with his legendary sword, asking why did it suddenly turn into this. However, Elizabeth tells Le to be vigilant and asks him to begin his swordsmanship training. Leping apologizes to her and starts swinging his sword. On the other side, Elizabeth is smiling, misunderstanding everything, thinking Leping wants to play games with this demon queen, but he is too young for that. It's undeniable that in terms of power, Leping is a little bit better than her, but when it comes to psychology and knowledge, Liz no match. But when Leping told Elizabeth to leave this morning, she felt so unhappy and almost let it happen. But then he said the words that were in his heart, that he can't live without Elizabeth, and she completely saw through him. However, Elizabeth still thinks that Leping knows very well that with their power, destroying or ruling the world is a matter of a single thought. It bears no meaning, so the best they can do is to leave it alone to develop and observe what is happening in their spare time. As for the Dark Guild, it has already been taken care of by Amelia, so there is no need to worry about it. Elizabeth starts blessing, thinking that Le has been wandering in thought every day, so he decided to bring her out early this morning to talk nonsense about how he wants her to leave and rule the world. But Elizabeth misunderstands everything, thinking that Le is trying to find an excuse to make her pay attention. It's obvious that after a year of getting along with one another, Leping has fallen in love with Elizabeth. This is what Elizabeth is thinking, but on the other side, Leping, who doesn't know anything, is still practicing his swordsmanship, thinking, is it true that one can master their sword by swinging it 1,000 times a day? But he is really confused, thinking, how can that be so simple? But Elizabeth thinks that Leping is the pinnacle of strength and still enjoys being beaten by another. She is the only one in the world who is capable of controlling him because he is a hero with wicked interests. Even if she is not interested in such a boring matter as falling in love, it is different when it comes to Leping. He has the highest power of creation and production, and she has the best swordsmanship and magic. What kind of a child would the two of them be able to create? To create the strongest child to break the limits of this realm, thinking this is Leping's true aim. However, after thinking about this, she starts laughing really loudly, thinking she will not agree so easily, so she will let Le practice his bad swordsmanship first. He needs to get stronger for that kid in the future. But Leping, after seeing Elizabeth, gets really confused, thinking, what is Elizabeth thinking about? Is she really planning to teach me swordsmanship and magic so I can destroy the Dark Guild? But when Leping swings his sword, suddenly a smoke scene surrounds the legendary sword. In the next moment, the legendary sword turns into a 12-year-old kid. After seeing this, Leping gets really shocked, thinking, why did the holy sword turn into a kid? The holy sword, now turned into a kid, gets really angry at Leping and asks why he is calling him a kid, introducing himself as Majestic Holy Sword's Sword Spirit, Alpha. Elizabeth, after seeing everything, asks Leping what's going on. But after seeing Elizabeth, Holy Sword Alpha says to her, Tisk, so it's you, the Demon Queen Elizabeth. However, he is not happy after seeing Elizabeth. He rushes toward her, thinking he will kill Elizabeth today. But before he can attack Elizabeth, she kicks him really hard and sends him flying across to the other side. She asks Holy Sword Alpha to sit down and let's talk. Holy Sword Alpha, after being beaten by Elizabeth, sits quietly in front of her, while apologizes to Holy Sword Alpha, explaining that he didn't know he was conscious even after using it for so long. Holy Sword Alpha explains that of course Le didn't know, at the critical moment of the hero fighting the Demon Queen, he appeared. But Holy Sword Alpha is really angry after finding out that Leping is using him to chop firewood all year. He actually used the Majestic Holy Sword to chop firewood. He asks Leping if he knows how he spent that year. Leping asks Holy Sword Alpha to calm down, but he doesn't listen to him, thinking Le actually changed the script and became friends with Elizabeth, and he even turned him, Holy Sword, into a wood-chopping knife. He says that Leping is a disgusting man and he doesn't deserve to be a hero at all. Elizabeth asks Holy Sword Alpha if he wants to kill her. Holy Sword Alpha replies saying no, explaining that it's all because of the silly system settings. Now, it's invalid. Considering the circumstances, Elizabeth would actually be his savior. But Elizabeth doesn't care and asks Holy Sword Alpha to help Leping rule the world. However, after hearing this, Holy Sword Alpha gets really confused and asks about ruling the world. Leping explains that Elizabeth means they should save it. But Holy Sword Alpha is still confused and asks Leping what he is talking about. Le explains, saying he has been idle for a long time. He decided to take the responsibility as the hero, practice, and then go save the world. Holy Sword Alpha asks Leping if he doesn't know where his talents lie. He just used Holy Sword Alpha to practice his sword swings 100 times and accumulated XP equal to fighting a Demon King level enemy and awakening him. However, Leping misunderstands himself, saying that he knows he has no talent, but with two great coaches, Holy Sword Alpha and Elizabeth, he believes he can do it. However, Holy Sword Alpha is really confused and asks Le what he is talking about. He is the world's strongest swordmaster. But before he can say this, Elizabeth silences his mouth with her magic. Then she asks Leping to sit down first. She has something to explain to the both of them. So she uses her magic hand and gets the Holy Sword Alpha behind the tree. After that, Leping starts hearing some noise behind the tree. Some moments later, Holy Sword Alpha gets a really good message from Elizabeth, so he comes to Leping and says to him that he got it. No matter what, he will cooperate with Leping. Without further ado, Elizabeth tells Leping that with only swordsmanship being allowed, they should start venturing outside. The narrative shifted to a bustling town square in Titano alive with the chatter of townsfolk. Amongst them, a girl announced that the Grey Wolf Guild is looking for recruits. The salary is favorable. The ones who are considering a job change can look at this flyer. The town's air was rich with the scent of street food, with corner shops advertising crispy fried chicken. Hot and fresh, the best choice for a snack when going to watch the guild competition. Titano Town is in Sword Saint Guild's area of influence. Leping and Elizabeth also come to this town to watch the guild competition. Elizabeth says to Le that her magic senses are telling her that this town is to hold a large-scale event, and where there are many people, Le can get a lot of information. Leping understands that the first step to ruling the world is the gathering of intelligence. However, Holy Sword Alpha doesn't look happy. He asks Leping if he wants him to accompany Le to waste his time in such a place. After hearing this, Elizabeth turns her head toward Holy Sword Alpha. She is really angry and asks him if he wants her to break him in two. Seeing Elizabeth like this, Holy Sword Alpha gets scared and asks Leping if he needs him. Just call him anytime. After saying this, he turns into a sword again. But suddenly, Leping notices a flyer and asks Elizabeth, "These flyers are everywhere. What is this event that is being held?" However, after looking carefully, he notices that this is a guild competition flyer. So he asks Elizabeth if she knew about this. Elizabeth explains that it's a competition where the guilds send their representatives to fight. But suddenly, they heard a really loud sound. This is the announcement sound for participants to enter and who wants to bet with them. After hearing this sound, people start heading toward the arena. When the guild competition is going to be held, people ask everyone to bet on the Sword Saint Guild. They will 100% win. But another one says that the elves have also sent people this time. Also, there is that card guild that became famous recently. Leping grabbed Elizabeth's hand, suggesting they watch the spectacle too. Moments later, upon reaching the arena, Leping was astounded by its immense beauty and size. However, their entry was halted by a yellow monster who informed them that his magic ticket inspector didn't detect their tickets. Leping, turning to Elizabeth, confidently offered to handle the situation. He inquired of the yellow monster if, as advertised on the flyer, tickets could still be purchased for 10 gold coins. The monster confirmed, but revealed he had monopolized the remaining tickets and was now selling them for 200 gold coins. Leping was shocked by this blatant profiteering. Elizabeth, clearly displeased, used her mind control magic on the monster. His demeanor instantly changed, becoming obsequious towards Leping. He offered them 2 VIP room tickets, declaring it an honor to serve them. He then happily ushered them to the VIP room. Leping, awestruck by the luxuriousness of the VIP room, couldn't believe his eyes. However, they weren't the only ones with VIP access. Several important figures from various guilds were present, including spellwriter Tagore Severus, drunk blacksmith Brian, Luna Saugus, and her sister Anna Saugus. Anna, spotting Leping and Elizabeth, nudged Luna and inquired if they were on the invitation list. This first glimpse of the grand arena made Leping a bit nervous, but Elizabeth remained nonchalant and requested snacks from him. Anna advised Luna to keep an eye on them, speculating they might be from a guild whose president had aided them in the past. The competition finally began. The host, Gob the Goblin, welcomed everyone and requested a warm reception for the players. He then announced the final round of the guild competition and introduced the 4 finalists: King, the genius swordsman from the Sword Saint Guild; Jael, the valiant general from the Giant Bear Guild; Travis, the handsome fellow from the Elf Guild; and E, the special guest representing the Card Guild. The crowd roared in anticipation as the host declared, "Let the games begin." After all 4 contestants enter the arena, Travis from the Elf Guild carefully examines everyone, thinking that this muscular-looking fool from the Giant Bear Guild looks way too simple-minded. He's probably cannon fodder. As for the Card Guild, which was recently established, the only reason they are qualified to join this competition is because they helped the Sword Saint Guild in killing the invading six-pillar demons. They are just a second-rate guild affiliated with the Sword Saint Guild, and there is only their president representing them. He is no threat to him. So, in this competition, the only one who poses a threat to him is the Sword Saint Guild's Blue Sword. However, after this, Jayla from the Giant Bear Guild starts running toward Blue Sword to attack him. But he is not the only one who is attacking. Travis jumps into the air and prepares his arrow to attack, thinking what a barbaric and primitive person Jayla from the Giant Bear Guild is. So he shoots 3 arrows at the same time to everyone. But everyone manages to avoid his arrows. However, Jayla from the Giant Bear Guild catches Travis's arrow and says to him, "These sissy's words are so rude. He will be the first I kill." He crushes the arrow that he caught and throws it into the ground. However, suddenly, the arrow he threw into the ground starts growing, and in just a few seconds, those arrows transform into a wooden cage and capture everyone. Travis, after locking up Jayla in a cage, says, "Such an uncultured beast like him should be locked up in a cage." However, Jayla, who is really big, says to Travis he can't stop him with just these rotten roots of his. He will crush them all. So he uses his fierce ram, thinking he can get out from this cage with his fierce ram. However, when he tries to escape, the grass roots come to life and capture him. After seeing he is really confused and doesn't know what's happening, Travis starts laughing, saying, "These are the grass roots of the gum tree. Upon impact, they shrink and an extremely sticky fluid comes out, you muscle brain." Meanwhile, Blue Sword effortlessly sliced through the roots with his sword, emerging from the cage unscathed. His flawless swordsmanship surprised both the masked man and Travis, particularly the latter, who grew frustrated. He's so fast the roots couldn't even touch him, he thought. Emerging from the cage, Blue Sword apologized to Travis for destroying his plant. To his surprise, Travis declared it didn't matter. He could repay the debt with his life. Defeating a formidable opponent like Blue Sword would be exhilarating. He readied his bow, unleashing his violent butterfly dance technique, a flurry of 100 arrows. Undeterred, Blue Sword muttered, "No fear, no doubt, no surprises, no confusion." Entering his selfless state, he readied his sword and executed the blue bird technique, slicing through not only Travis' butterfly dance but also severing his right hand without him even noticing. Confused and bewildered, Travis looked at Blue Sword, who calmly stated, "You've lost." Travis conceded, acknowledging Blue Sword's title as the Sword Saint Guild's genius. However, he reminded him that he, too, was a genius, an elf guild genius. Suddenly, green butterflies surrounded Blue Sword. Before he could react, Travis unleashed his butterfly explosion. Fortunately, Blue Sword survived the attack. However, after seeing Blue Sword is still alive, Travis retrieves something from his mouth and throws it into the ground. Suddenly, a really big flower emerges from the ground. This flower is Healing Lily, capable of healing any wound. Travis uses it to heal his arm. After seeing that, he acknowledges that the Sword Saint Guild is extremely powerful, but its attack patterns are too simple. This is its flaw. With the blessing of the sacred tree, the elves are the most powerful of all. However, before he can say something more, Jayla from the Giant Bear Guild attacks him from behind and kills him. Jayla starts laughing, saying, as he said, "The first one to die will be Travis. Show-offs are the most annoying type." After that, he turns his head toward Blue Sword. However, Blue Sword gets really surprised after seeing him. This aura he's giving off is. But before he can say something, the audience starts cheering for Jayla, asking for more, and urging him to smash Blue Sword to death. Jayla's revenge instantly fires up the audience. The first one to leave the competition is the handsome Travis of the Elf Guild. But everyone is really curious, how did Jayla break away? However, this is not important. Now what matters is, can the injured Blue Sword withstand Jayla's attack? So, Blue Sword lifts his right hand into the air and calls his sword. In the next moment, his sword comes back to him. However, after he carefully looks at Jayla, he gets a rough idea that he used his sweat as lubrication to struggle free from the secret of the roots. Fortunately, Blue Sword used his sword in time to prevent bigger damage, so the impact was minimal. Jayla's body starts growing, and purple smoke surrounds him. He says to Blue Sword that power is everything, and he will crush him in just seconds. So, he jumps into the air and uses 70% of his muscle power to attack Blue Sword. However, Blue Sword dodges and avoids his attack, then counterattacks him with his flashing cold slash, sending him back. Unfortunately, he can't deal any damage to Jayla's body. Jayla starts laughing after seeing Blue Sword can only scratch him. On the other side, Blue Sword gets really surprised after seeing his sword got damaged. However, before Blue Sword can think anything, Jayla attacks him and uses 80% of his muscle power this time. Unfortunately, Blue Sword barely stops his attack, but he can't completely stop it and rolls into the ground. After finding out that he can't use his sword anymore, he throws his sword into the ground and starts fighting Jayla hand to hand. Jayla starts attacking Blue Sword again, but this time he uses 90% of his muscle power, thinking he will kill Blue Sword this time. However, Blue Sword dodges Jayla's every attack. On the other side, Leping is really excited after seeing their fights. He asks Elizabeth who she thinks will win in the end. However, Elizabeth doesn't say anything. Anna, the red-haired girl, is really surprised because his sword is a B-ranked weapon forged by the dwarves, but it was broken by a simple punch. Luna, the yellow-haired girl, asks her sister if they should stop it. After all, their sword Saint Guild can't lose more face. But the red-haired girl is really confused, thinking when did the giant bear guild's people become so strong? But she suddenly remembers, could it be the Dark Guild?